Hello, fellow investors, and welcome to another episode of Ritter On Real Estate. We teach you how to passively invest like a pro. Today, my guest is Sam Primm. Sam is just a great entrepreneurial journey. He left his 9 to 5 job, came into real estate, grew a portfolio very quickly. He's expanded into different asset classes. And he's brought a lot of people on the journey with him through his social media platforms, providing a ton of education on how to follow him and in this path and take control of your financial future. So, Sam, really excited to have you on today. Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me on. I think we had a couple cancellations on each of our ends, so we finally got together. I'm excited.
Yeah, you know, when you're running your own business, you have that kind of stuff comes up, right? So we gotta stay fluid with it. So yeah, really excited to be able to get you in the chair today. And let's just start at the top, like we always do. Let's tell people a little bit more about who you are and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of like to say that I'm about as normal as it gets. Like, I grew up in the Midwest. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a teacher, didn't like inherit a ton of money, was going down the path that most people go down: high school, college, job, save a little bit of money, retire when you're 65. So that's the path I was on. And that's the path I always thought that I would pursue. But after I
Mhm.
graduated college and actually started to do that, I wasn't super happy with my job. I liked it okay, and I was paid very, very well, but it wasn't scratching all the itches. It wasn't allowing me to impact. It wasn't giving that competitive, fire of, survival on your own and pushing me as much as I wanted. So a couple years after I graduated college, started investing in real estate on the side with a buddy. About 3 years after that, we went full time. So 2018 went full time into real estate. And then kind of since then has really exploded. I kind of like to say I went from, real estate being a side hustle to my full-time gig to financial freedom. So now, financially free through that real estate. And obviously we can kind of fill in the gaps and cover the pieces, but
Mhm,
flash forward to
mhm.
now, sitting at a $40 million rental portfolio that I've been able to buy without using any of my own money, which usually grabs people's attention. Spent zero of my own dollars to get that $40 million rental portfolio. I also own a house flipping company here in St. Louis that's going to flip about 300 houses, mostly wholesale, but some fix and flips, maybe 60, 70 fix and flips in there as well. And then have this education and this social media stuff. So I'm all in on real estate, man. That's all I do all day, every single day. I've developed a couple of different verticals for it, but it's all about real estate.
Yeah, 100%. That's exciting to hear. You guys have obviously built quite a successful model there. So let's dig into the model a little bit more. I want to understand. So you've come through in a lot of different asset classes. Talk about kind of the beginning of that portfolio, that building up to that 40 million. What did that look like? Where did we start? How did that evolve throughout the process?
Yeah, so just started out with one single family rental. Actually, when I got started, it was about that 2015 time frame. I didn't even know about the BRRRR method or the refinance. I thought you had to put 20% down on every rental. So, me and my buddy Lucas went and looked at 30, 40 houses with his mother-in-law that was a real estate agent, trying to find a deal. And we finally pulled the trigger, and the plan was to buy it and fix it up and then sell it and then take the profit and put that down on a single family rental. That's kind of how I thought you had to do it, was you had
Mhm.
to use 20% down. Cash was the only way to buy a rental property. I knew you could borrow money to buy and fix up. I remember watching like Flip or Flop or some of those shows on HGTV where they borrow money from somebody and buy a house and fix it up and split the profit with them. So
Yep.
I knew I didn't have to use my money to buy it and fix it up, but I thought I did for the rental. So during that process and the rehab, we discovered the refinance of the BRRRRs and ended up keeping that one as in a rental property. So started out with that one that we still own today as a single family rental, and then kind of sprinkled in a few single families, a small multifamily. And then 2018, quit my job. And ever since then, things have really exploded. I would say 90% of my portfolios come since 2018. The first few years, as it being a side hustle, you don't have as much time and energy to dedicate to grow it. And I probably wasn't quite as sold on it as I am now. So yeah,
Mhm.
majority of it's come over the past few years, but it's kind of been a slow journey to a big jump off.
So talk about that moment. So that's a critical moment for everybody. And that's scary. You're making good money. You got a 9 to 5 job. You've got security, or at least you've got the illusion of security, in that corporate role. And you've got to make this leap off that cliff, right? So I think there's a lot of people out there that get stuck right there, right? That's a scary venture. Talk to people a little bit about the mindset maybe talk about the mindset going into it. Talk about a little bit too about the prep. How did you prepare to make that leap? So what are the things you had to get over in your own head, and then how did you prepare to do that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like you said that it's that mental leap, that fear. You got to be in the right mindset. So there's kind of looking back at it, I'll can tell you that I just was excited. My business partner who owns all this stuff with me and him own it 50-50. He had made the leap a couple months earlier, and I just didn't want to, have him carrying the extra load by going full time, or I didn't want to, get left behind as far as him doing all the work and, him growing this cool thing and me not being a part of it. So that was more of, what was on the surface level of, my mind at the time. But looking back, there's three kind of things that I used, not knowing that I overcame the fear with, and that I tell people. The one is, knowledge.
Mhm.
If you get a base level of knowledge on something, it's less scary. So I had a base level of knowledge on real estate. I had some systems and processes created. We had some, reserves and some pipeline of deals coming in. So, it wasn't like I'm not like one of those guys that's going to tell you to jump all in, whether there's water in the pool or not.
Yep.
So we had a plan, so some knowledge. We had some experience. Experience always helps. That's the second thing. You're not going to be fully experienced in being a full-time real estate business owner, but I had some experience doing it on the side. And then the third thing that's probably was the biggest factor of me going all in and getting over the fear is just, blind stupidity. It just doing it and being like, all right, we're going to figure it out. I'm just going all in. I'm making 250 grand a year in St. Louis, at a good job that's stable,
Yep.
and just stupid enough to take a chance. So those are kind of the three categories that got me into making that leap.
Man, isn't it so funny? Like, I'm sure if you're looking back, I'm sure you may not have I just, and I don't know if this is you, but this is a common sentiment. Like, most people looking back wouldn't have done what they did back then, take that leap or do it in the way they did, or maybe take an investment that they did, knowing what they know now years later, right? Like, they've learned too much, they've seen too much, they've maybe been burned, but it's that ignorance at the beginning that allows you to take that maybe riskier move than you would do now, right? But it allows you to get it and take that leap. I mean, do you relate to that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because there was a lot of unknowns on the other side of it. Looking back, it's like, well, duh, the things you've been able to accomplish and the power of real estate and, focusing 60 hours a week on it, instead of 10 hours a week or 5 hours a
Mhm.
week. So looking back, but that's not how I looked at it. Like you said, it was just kind of that blind ignorance of, let's make that leap and let's get the ball rolling. And if it doesn't work out, then I guess I'll try to go find another job, probably paying a little bit less, but we would have made it work.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic right now in the US, because you think about trying to get over that cliff. What's the downside, right? We have a labor market where there's 11 million available jobs and like 4 million available workers, right? So there's a job for everybody that wants one right now. I mean, you could almost, and I was just thinking about this as you're talking, make an argument like this is a great time to go out and try that venture that you wanted to go after, real estate or whatever, because yeah, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, you got to go back and you got to get another W-2 job, right? Well, we're in a market right now where there's 2.5 jobs for everybody that wants one. I mean, you could make the argument like now is a great time to go out and try that venture.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where, yeah, figure it out. If you're going to look at the worst case scenario that, you can go find another job, that's pretty good. But you owe it to yourself, look at the best case scenario too. If you're like
Yeah.
super like positive, you got to look at the worst case side. But if you're a pessimist, you got to look at the positive, the best case scenario as well. You got to look at all angles. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm just coming to that realization as we're sitting here talking. One thing I want to hit on, you mentioned a partnership and it seems like that partnership, I would assume is something, I mean, it got you off. That was a big part of getting you over the fence. And it almost sounds like there's a little FOMO there of not not wanting him to run with it. You wanted to be right there with him. Talk about how that partnership has allowed you to grow the business. Maybe, how have you guys defined your roles, and just talk about what that has allowed you to do versus maybe thinking about going on your own.
Yeah, so I mean, having him as a partner has been, huge. We've been really good friends, which is something that a lot of people shy away from. We've been really good friends since middle school. So, been friends a long time. But we knew each other really well. We had the same, core values, the same work ethic, the same long-term goals, the same, determination that really has helped us because, when I've been down or, discouraged about something, he's usually been up and like, all right, we got this, let's keep going. If he's ever discouraged, I'm usually, upbeat about it and positive. And most of the time we're both upbeat and positive. So that's when things really, really ramp up. So
Mhm.
it's just allowed us to, stay motivated and stay focused and stay on the grind. And it's also been a huge thing that has allowed us recently to kind of divide and conquer. Like we used to do everything together, look at the houses together, look at the rentals together, look at the flips to get all that kind of stuff. And a couple years ago, we kind of just divided. You take the flipping, I'll take the education, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. And then, we'll do the rentals together kind of because we own everything together. And that's
Mhm.
really allowed us to, go into our own. Like I haven't even been inside our last 40 rental houses, probably haven't even seen them, couldn't tell you the address. I remember I could tell you the first hundred's address like that. So just, trusting him and who he's brought in on his side, and he's trusting me who I brought on my side has allowed us to really grow. Because I get asked, why didn't you just do it on your own? You could own it all yourself. Well, if I did that, it would be a fraction of the size. It's not even 1 + 1 = 2. With Lucas and I, it's 1 + 1 = 100. So,
Yeah.
just the fact that we're doing it together and growing and trust each other, we're able to accomplish 10, 100x what we would had we tried it on our own. So I'll take 50% of a huge number rather than 100% of a small number, I guess, put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. I mean, I think that's an abundance mentality. I think it's understanding the bigger picture, right? Seeing the forest through the trees and knowing that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that comes with having a bigger pie, right? Not just the returns, because maybe you're splitting those 50-50, right? You could have the same amount of return on half the size portfolio. But with real estate, with scale comes a lot of safety, security, right? The ability to have, there's a lot of economies that come with that scale, right? And so I think there's a ton of value there. So I think that's big picture thinking, and that, like you said, that partnership, and we see it time and time again in real estate, is the way to get. I love 1 + 1, not even equals three, it equals 100. And so you guys have been able to really maximize that to grow. So it sounds like your partner is he more like the COO type role, kind of integrator in the business, running the business, and you're more external facing on the education side. Is that, and then, rentals you said you do together, but as I try to understand the roles a little bit more.
Yeah, so for sure. So he's definitely got a little more of that integrated, that operations, finance side to him. I'm a little bit more of the sales, negotiating, the marketing side of it.
Hmm.
But when we kind of divided and conquered, he, for the flipping company, we have commercials here in St. Louis. He's the one doing the commercials for, that's his company. He
Yeah.
is the visionary of that company. He is the leader. Everything rolls up to him. I gonna start to, but I haven't even attended a meeting for Faster House, which is that company. And
Yeah.
for the education side, I do all of it as well. His strengths are probably a little more of the operations, but he has the visionary in him as well, the CEO. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where we're both, when we were together, it kind of was more of me, the marketing side, him more of the operation side. But since we split up, we just got our own yin to our yang and our each of our companies. And together we're growing them together but separate.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, there's all different ways to put it together.
Yep.
That's what I like to understand. There's no right way. So you're really focused on education, right? We've talked about that. I know you've got a sizable social following you've developed through a lot of good content you're putting out. Talk a little bit about the importance of that education to your business and why that's such a focal point for you.
Yeah, because it's been a challenge, to put it lightly. As far as growing a social media presence, there's just a lot out there. There's a ton of people out there that are growing huge followings. So to differentiate yourself and to get any traction can be pretty tough. And fortunately, I had the rentals and the flipping income to, support my family and have my active income while was growing this following, because it takes a long time to do that, or at least to do it the right way. I'm not
Mhm.
doing a crypto segment and a e-com segment and, a real estate segment. And, I'm not trying to metaverse segment. I'm not doing that. I have crypto, I have e-commerce stores, but I'm not teaching on that. I'm not an expert. So I've grown my audience strictly through the real estate funnel and lens, and it's grown, at a pretty good pace, but it hasn't, been like whoever wants to follow me, follow me. I've been pretty strategic about it. So it's taken, not super long, about a couple years, a little over 2 years. I started in, mid to late 2020. I started kind of doing the social media thing, growing a following and a presence, and, figuring it out from there. I just want to get a ton of eyeballs on me, and then I'll figure out what to do with it after the fact. Just lead with, information, lead with value, and then the rest will follow. And like you said, it's done pretty well recently. I'm looking at a little over 2 million followers on all the social medias between TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And it's just been really eye-opening to the people that you can impact just through videos and online. And then, I have a mentorship that, some people want, but 99.9% of them just want to get the free stuff and learn and be educated and entertained.
Mhm.
And then a small percentage want a little more hand holding. But it's been really fun, and it's been, challenging and, grinding, but it's having a social media presence and trying to grow it's pretty much a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. And why did you set out to say you wanted to have this big social media? I mean, was the goal to get to it was the goal for 2 million followers? And what was the goal? And why did you make that such a focus?
Yeah, the goal was just to get into the education space. Like, yeah, I said, divide and conquer. Lucas and the couple people he's hired can do the flipping, and this is a good thing to do. I kind of saw the power of social media over the few years leading up to 2020, and saw that everyone was going to be sitting around, not doing a ton, because of the COVID and everything for a little while. And I just saw it as kind of an opportunity to expand the brand and see where it went. I remember posting in 2019 a couple of times on Facebook. We had, at the time, I don't know, 10 million in real estate or something like that, and just talking about it, and then just getting flooded with DMs and messages and comments, and people thought it was really cool and they wanted to learn how. And then I was like, well, let's try to broaden this. Facebook, at the time, without the groups, is definitely more of a local thing, right? You're friends with all your friends
Mhm.
from high school and college, so it's just your little sphere. It's not like super outreaching. So then I decided to do more of the outreaching stuff, which was YouTube and Instagram, and those are super slow to start. So I threw in TikTok just to try it, and that's what really's taken off and has kind of bled into the other platforms to help them grow. But yeah,
Mhm.
just the idea was growing the audience, get a bunch of eyeballs on you, and eventually you're figure out a way to add value and monetize. But at the time, it was just adding value. We were pretty much a break-even company for the first 18-ish months for education, until we kind of got things figured out, the right audience, the right mentorship. And the past 6, 7 months has been pretty powerful, that people have been able to impact, for free for the social media, and then as well as some of the paid stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just lead with education, kind of figure out, where that's going to bring value back, right?
Yep, that's what I did.
So now that you've got this big following, right? I mean, I think so many people just think about social media as maybe this is something that you should do, or something that you have to do, and we just need to grow followers, right? There's just but I don't know that a lot of people really think about why grow the followers, and so and are those even the right places to be finding your target audience, right? And so what has now that you've got this large platform, now that you've got all these eyeballs on you, I mean, how has that impacted your business?
It's impacted the education business, pretty substantially. We have, like I said, we have the mentorship products. Just have one product, a mentorship, that we sell quite a few of, from just the funnel, right? You give a ton of people watch your videos, and then a portion of them want more. And then those, if you have a big enough audience, that
Mhm.
1% that want more can get pretty substantial, right? So the bigger the top of the funnel, the bigger the bottom of the funnel will be. So it's impacted that. We've gotten a few deals from it. I've got sent a ton of deals from it online. I'm just not at the point where I want to expand into other markets. Everything we own is here in St. Louis. Got a few
Mhm.
deals in St. Louis from it, but that's not really the goal. But eventually that will be the goal. Eventually the goal probably is to do some type of syndication so that I can use the following to raise money the right way, through accredited investors and to get deals, do a post about getting deals. I mean, my biggest TikTok video is like has well over 7 million views. It's got like 3.5 years of watch time consistently, and it's less than a year old, and it's like a 20-second video. So just the power of having those platforms to lean in on when the time comes. And I'm not like trying to pick everybody's money and do all that stuff. Now I'm just providing knowledge, and then, hey, you want the mentorship. So it's really helped now, but I think it's gonna help as I want to grow and expand and like do the syndication and get the deals. And we want to bring an NBA team to St. Louis. That'll probably be in 10 or 15 years if we can do that. I doubt we can, but that's a big goal of ours. At that point, social media hopefully will be 20, 30 million. Who's to say I can't, raise money to buy the team? Who's to say like the Green Bay Packers, that's you own part of the Green Bay Packers, but it's not an investment. Who's to say I can't sell 0.005% of an NBA team for 250 grand and raise, a few million, you raise 50 million as well as my own money to be a majority owner of a team we bring to St. Louis. And that would cause a stir. It would cause, if you're in Indianapolis
Yeah.
and you own or your buddy owns a very small percentage of the team, guess what? You and your friends are going to be fans of that team. So it's just just things like that. The possibilities are endless when you have an audience that you legitimately provide value to. The possibilities are endless as far as where I can take it, and that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that, and I love how big you're thinking. I mean, that's awesome. You can have these big audacious goals, right? And yeah, and from, if you're, especially if you're gonna, I know a big part of your business is related to, being able to use other people's money or being able to rely on other capital sources versus your own. I'm sure that, that has a lot to do with your social presence as well. I think that I always tell people, if you're going to syndicate, or if you're going to raise money from other people and get people to trust you to come into your deals, you have to have some sort of thought leadership platform. My chosen platform was podcast. Yours, social media. I think, I think you also mentioned you got a podcast starting, right? Or just
Mm-hmm.
started, but so that's great. You're developing multiple channels, but this social media allows you to be out there, show your expertise. But I think that's critical. So for somebody out there that wants to think about, they want to syndicate in the future, they want to use other people's money, they want to figure out how to engage with investors, or whether it's equity or debt, they want to build a platform, they think social media is the right one for them. What are a few tips you can share? I'm sure there's a lot of lessons learned building your mountain of followers.
Yeah, I would say kind of think a little bit of your end game. You don't have to have, because I didn't have mine and still don't have mine figured out, but just what are you wanting to do? If you're wanting deals and you're wanting to like grow a local following to get deals and to just be an authority in your local space, I think Facebook is a great platform for that, as well as Instagram and TikTok too, of course, because it can get you the most views quickly. But if your goal is to do a national, bigger picture thing, then I think TikTok for sure. Like you got to do TikTok and Instagram and Facebook's, they're trying to make it a little bit broader with the pages and the groups and everything, but it's still majority of, it's the oldest social media, or one of the older ones. It's got a little bit more of the older following. So depending what you're wanting to do, if you're wanting a local brand, then I would go really hard on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, all of them, but Facebook probably first or near the top. And then if you're wanting to go national, then you gotta do TikTok and YouTube, and then you can do the other ones as well, Instagram. But you got to be able to you have the right social media to reach the audience. Those, the main social medias, there's 20-year-olds, there's 15-year-olds, there's 80-year-olds. Like the TikTok at this point, there's so many people that are over the age of 20, 30 on there, as opposed to what it was a couple of years ago. They're big enough, you're going to reach your right audience if you put out the content. So I think just that first, and then just being consistent. I know people say that, but I kind of got laughed at for posting on TikTok. And I was like, I'm just going to try one post a day for 30 days. And by the like 7th day, I had a video that had 100,000 views when my YouTubes were getting 80 views and my Instagram
Mhm.
were getting, whatever, 100 views. So it was just eye opening. And then things started to filter because just real quickly, you mentioned the podcast. I just want to show that having this following has helped the podcast. We got, I think, almost 250 5-star reviews already, and it's been out for 7 days. We were ranked, I think, 14th on entrepreneur podcasts, like right behind like Gary V's and Hermosi's and Andy Frisell. Like we were like right below some of them. So, obviously you have to continue that up with the podcast, but my podcast wouldn't have at all that reach had I
Yeah.
just launched it. So having the social media and an audience to point them in a direction, this direction right now, just as the podcast, that's been huge. So having that audience, I didn't know that I was going to launch a podcast, but having that audience has been ginormous for me launching the podcast and having some at least immediate success. I know I have to follow up with that, but it's been a good launch, let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You start to understand how all these things fold and build on each other, right? And it all just
Yep.
continues to build momentum. So, what about content creation? I mean, what type of content creation? You mentioned one video has 7 million views, right? What content are you putting out that's been the most successful?
Yeah, so the TikTok is the TikTok. TikTok gets the most views out of all of them for sure. I have almost 1.8 on TikTok at this point, and I have, I think, like 25 or 30 videos that have over a million views. So that's like a lot, and then you have some that do less. It just
Mhm.
depends on the algorithm and how cranky it is that day. But yeah, TikTok's going to be like your biggest immediate success. But in 5 minutes, if somebody's on their phone on social media in 5 minutes, they're going to see 100 different people on TikTok, maybe 150. On YouTube, they're probably just going to see one, maybe two people. On
Mhm.
Instagram, maybe 10. And on a podcast, for sure, they're just going to see one. So you got to think of it that way. Great. It's cool to have all those views, but they're not super valuable views. They're a 10-second
Sure.
view, a 40-second view, and people are scrolling and they're done with you. And you're getting fed that. But on your podcast, on YouTube, people are searching you out for the most part. So those are way more valuable, long-term connected views where I'm
Yeah.
connecting with the audience at a much deeper level, which is what you want. So, they're the different platforms and they all kind of feed each other. TikTok's kind of that opening with a bang. Instagram's great because I can reuse the TikToks and I can message people and interact, give them my free training. And I love Instagram for that. Instagram's probably the one I want to grow the most, honestly. And then YouTube's great because you warm people up visually. You can have the shorts and you can have the long form stuff. And then podcasts, I'm just getting into that space. But as you probably know, you can really develop probably a slower audience, but as it grows, a super, super engaged and loyal, and trusting audience, with your podcast
Mhm.
and how you can let people in and peel behind the curtains of certain deals and things that I just can't do on TikTok. I screw up all the time by trying to give too much information on TikTok. And they're like, just give me one piece of information so I can scroll on and throw some nice music to it. Well, on a
Right.
podcast and YouTube, you can, peel things back and provide a lot more context and, a lot more layers to things that can help, hope, show that your value and, have them follow you and be a little more engaged.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that is fantastic advice where you laid out the platforms. And it sounds like pick the right platform for your purpose, right?
Hmm.
Focus on that platform and then from there repurpose into others, right?
For
It
sure.
sounds like that's what I'm picking up from what you're saying. So, yeah, I appreciate that information. I think for everybody that's thinking about being a real estate investor and thinking about not doing it all on your own, which I think is the right approach to not do it all on your own if you really want to scale to it to something that's going to be meaningful. I think again, having that thought leadership platform is critical. So if social is what you're comfortable with, it's your platform of choice. I think the tips that Sam are giving are invaluable. And even as it relates, like you said, YouTube, you said podcasts. I mean, those are all different platforms even outside of social that you can focus on. I mean, pick the one that works and then repurpose across the others. I think is definitely the most powerful way to go about that. So you build up this great following, right? And then, you mentioned you haven't spent you haven't used any of your own money. You used other people's money in these deals. I mean, I'm assuming having that large following helps dovetail into some of that. But let's switch gears. I want to hear a little bit about how are you structuring your deals, and how are you leveraging other people's money? Is it debt? Is it equity? And yeah, what do those deal structures look like?
Yeah, and it's been a little bit of a mixture. We're kind of figuring things out as we go. There's no real playbook to exactly how we do things. So kind of what we've done for all of our single family rentals has just been the Burrs method, buying with a private lender or a hard money lender, rehabbing with their funds, and then renting and refinancing and getting their money
Mhm.
back. So we've just been able to do that at a pretty steady clip. The house buying company, going to buy 300 this year. I think we did 260 last year. So that's a great lead in to be like, oh, Lucas will see the houses coming in. We have buyers and everything like, oh, that'd be a great rental. That so we can kind of pick off that. We have the systems to rehab in place. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't you continue to add single families that way? We have the
Mhm.
funding, we have the rehabbing, we have the bank relationships. It's like just plug and play, and there's a system created that kind of takes a distressed house and spits out a rented house, and we don't have to do anything. It took us a while to get to that point, but that's what we do for those single families. And it's, in and
Sure.
out, handful of private lenders we use. Their money's in and out quickly, get a decent return, and they're done. With the multifamilies, we've done the debt, we've done the equity. I have 6 multifamily properties, a 9, 12, 19, 27, 29, 32 unit. So, smaller, medium to small size. And they haven't been ginormous. So we've been able to use a private lender. Some we've used and some we've met for the down payment, let's say, and then over 2 or 3 years we increase the net income by raising rents and increasing efficiencies, and there's enough equity to buy them back out. So it's kind of like a bird deal if you understand that method. They're just long term, and we partnered with them. We've just given them preferred interest. So it kind of depends on the deal, what the cash flow looks like. So we've been flexible with that, and we've also done that with packages of houses. Like we bought 42 houses in one neighborhood a couple months ago. We treated that like a multifamily deal, that long 1 to 3 year investment for a private lender. So we just really developed great relationships with lenders. They've told their friends, got us more lenders, and then we developed bank relationships with throughout all of our businesses. We developed relationships with several nice, small local banks that are willing to invest interestingly and creatively.
I gotcha. So you're either bringing in a private lender or hard money on the front end, or if it's a more stabilized, maybe multifamily, you're using, sounds like, community banks mainly for the debt. And are you bringing in private money in as a second to the bank?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on like if they're part of the, if they're like you said, if they're on the debt or equity side, or if they're part of the if they're part of the LLC, we give them we've done a
Mhm.
couple of them where they've, gotten ownership in the LLC as part of their money they're giving us, and then they get their
Sure.
money back plus interest, and at that point we'll refinance them out. So we've done it a few different ways. We've done a couple Freddie Mac deals as well, kind of away from that small local banks, some non-recourse longer term stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we bring the private lenders in, and just a simple example, we're buying $1 million apartment complex. We'll bring in a private lender or two that will give us the $200,000 needed for the down payment. 200 grand from the private lender, 800 grand from the bank, and then within 2 or 3 years, we're able to increase the value enough that it's worth 1.3, 1.4 million. We'll do an 80% cash out refinance, and then we'll take it to the same bank or a different bank, and that equity that's created will pay off that 200 grand plus interest, and now we own it. So it's usually been a 18 to 36 month venture, the house or
Mhm.
the property we've been buying. So it's just kind of a quick little in and out, and then they got their money back, and guess what, they're ready to do another deal with us. So that's how we've been structuring it, get them their money as quickly as possible. The houses will take a month to 2 or 3 months. The apartments usually 1 to 3 years.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I appreciate you running through that. I mean, for the folks listening, like there's a lot of different strategies, right? There's a lot of approaches. There's not just one way to go about it. You got to be creative, but if you make the right relationships, whether it's private lenders, whether it's folks that want to have equity, and you bring good deals, I mean, there's a way to do this without a lot of your cash to start up, right? And I love that
Mm.
aspect of real estate is low barrier to entry. It's scalable in that way. As long as you can just think outside of the box and be creative and create good relationships. So Awesome, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing so much info today. Now I want to take you through our keys to success round. It's 4 questions I want to ask you. The first one is, if you were going to invest in someone else's deal and you could only ask them one question, what would that one question be?
One question would probably be more focused on how they plan to manage the investment after the fact. Because with real estate, there's so much that you can do. A house that I buy today in 15 years is going to probably at least double in value, and the note's going to get paid down. And so there's just a huge spread. So as long as you're managing that properly, I'm not super worried about, any little detail. Every single family house I buy, I say I'm going to make 200 grand on over the next 10 years with, growth, equity pay down, and cash flow. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of room in there, something like that. So I would just be more concerned about how they manage to, or how they plan to manage the property after the fact. Not, I would be as concerned about, every little detail of the purchase and the price, and, what it's worth now and how much it's going to cash flow. If they're going to manage it properly after the fact, they can screw up a lot and still make a good investment.
Gotcha. Yeah. Great question. What are you most proud of in your career?
Probably just the fact that we've been able to impact so many people that we care about here locally. We have outside my office door, we have about 35 employees, and I'd say 10 or 12 of them are our good friends. We've brought people along with us on this journey, people I've known for 20 years, 30 years, friends from college, from high school. We've just grown these companies, and there's been opportunities for roles, and we've leaned on some of our friends for them because we know it's a good cultural fit. We set the right expectation, we set them up to succeed, and if it doesn't quite work out, we'll find a role, or we'll find something that works out. So it's just been really fun to bring along our friends and family with us and help them create multi-million dollar rental portfolios, as well as make a good living.
That's awesome. I love that, because you're creating so much value even beyond your own net worth, right? You're creating value throughout the community for, like you said, 35 people, creating new jobs. I mean, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship and starting your own business, right? Is how much value you can bring into the community. So yeah, definitely something to be proud of. What's a book that everybody should read?
A book, I mean, I hate to be too freaking stereotypical, but the books I would suggest everybody reading, whether they want to invest real estate or not, would be Rich Dad Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich. I know that's more than one,
Mhm.
but thinking either one, they're just more of a mindset and foundational level of understanding and foundational level of mindset, that all the tactical things. There's all these books that can tell you a million different ways to make money, but I think just having that base level of mindset is huge. And then I got a book coming out in a couple months. I don't even know what it's going to be called, but my book whenever it comes out.
There you go. Yeah, those are 2 great foundational books. I think no matter what you're doing, start there, read those, move on from there. Yeah, so great calls. Last but not least, what is your number 1 key to success?
I would say the number one thing, and it's probably been a little bit more recently that I've actually truly embraced it, is having a mindset of abundance. I'm super competitive. I want to win, but the fact that I don't want to, step on somebody's back or cut their throat or stab them in the back, everyone look at it to win. Like, I can win and you can win too. There's enough out there for both of us. I'm going to provide value, and then we'll figure out, I'm going to provide information value. We'll figure out monetarily what that looks like later. Just leading with as much value as you can, and truly embracing the fact that there's enough out there for everybody, and having that abundance mindset. I
Mhm.
talked about it for a couple of years, but about the last 12, 18 months, I feel like I've truly embraced it. And guess what? The last 12, 18 months, I've made, we bought over $20 million of real estate, and I've, made more money than I ever thought I would, as soon as I stopped worrying about making money. As soon as I worried
Yeah.
about helping people and having a mindset of abundance, the deals came in, the money came in like at a 10x rate than I ever thought it would in my entire life. So just
Mhm.
leading with that and truly embracing that mindset of abundance will lead to more money, but you just have to truly embrace it. You can't just say it. And that's been very apparent in the past, couple of years for me.
Yeah, I love that. The abundance mindset is everything. And that's what allows you to just move forward, even when there's uncertainty, right? Just the confidence that the more you put out, the more it's going to come back to you. And so, yeah, love that. It's critical to success. Absolutely. So Sam, you've brought a ton of good content today. Obviously, there's value in following you and understanding what you're doing. So if people want to follow you, they want to reach out. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just follow me on whatever, don't want to, whatever social media is your favorite. I'm on all of them, just at Sam Faster Freedom. So my name's Sam, and then Faster Freedom's the brand. So just follow me on any social media that's your favorite, at Sam Faster Freedom. Message me on Instagram. Be glad to answer any of your questions. And like you said, I did just launch that podcast, Ordinary Guys Extraordinary Wealth. So check that out after you watch yours, then watch mine or listen to mine. So
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, get them both on the playlist. Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for bringing so much value, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
awesome. You too, man.